Hi guys, welcome back again. I have something really juicy for you guys today, and it's about emotional maturity. Do you know that you cannot fake emotional maturity? Emotional maturity is not in how you talk. Emotional maturity is not about how well you speak. Emotional maturity is in how well you respond in disappointment. It's how you show up when no one is clapping for you. Emotional maturity is a whole lot more I want to share with you in this video, and I want you to stick around so we can actually look at it together. Welcome back again. Like I said earlier, my name is Tife. If you're new to this channel, to this space, if you're seeing me for the very first time, welcome. I'm so glad you've come across this video, and if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate you. So today we're talking about emotional maturity, but how are you doing? We'll come back and talk about this whole emotional maturity because it's really a lot, and it is something that is needed in our society today. Welcome back, guys. So let's dive into how to regulate in an emotional moment. This is just like a little bit of introduction on what to do when you're finding yourself in an emotional space. Now, emotional mature people don't just feel things. Emotional people manage themselves through those feelings. When someone offends them, they don't just explode, they don't shut down, they don't separate themselves. Emotional maturity in that sense is like a pause that brings you that powerful feeling. You're able to internalize, you're able to look at something a little bit within, not on the surface level, because that gives you a sense of security. You're able to look within, you're able to pause and calm down, and you'll be like, okay, I'm going to take a deep breath. How do I respond to this? Not everything is an outburst. Not everything is you scatter things and you will give such a response that anybody beside you will be wondering, are you sure you're okay? But the issue is, at that moment, you're feeling something that is so powerful, something that is so strong. But if you want to be emotionally mature, that's the time for you to take a pause, take a seat back. And when you look at things from the perspective of not just lashing out, I'm very certain that you have a different outcome to it. So, like I was saying earlier, when you're being emotionally mature, it's a time that is giving you, it's a time that is, I would call it like a pause, and that pause is actually powerful for you. It's the difference between a conversation and a conflict. Emotional maturity is learning and healing and not to harm in the moment. It's about you being passive. It's about responding actually with clarity instead of chaos, instead of reacting from a place of pain. I hope you get that. To drive home this point of emotional maturity I'm trying to bring you guys into today, I want to share a story that I really love that is going to drive this topic to where I want you guys to see this whole thing from. I know you guys will say I've come with my story again. I know. But guess what? Story time. Okay, so this story is about two friends. I really love their story, to be honest. And these friends, they're females. One is Jasmine and the other one is Tayo. Jasmine and Tayo have been friends for a good number of years. So we're talking about tight friends. These are not friends that started being friends a week ago or something, or 2 months, or even a year ago. These guys have been friends for a really long time. Like, they even know each other's families. As time went on, Jasmine and Tayo went to university together. Tayo was, of course, in a different hostel, but they actually do spend time together like a whole lot. Now, at a point in time, Jasmine started to pull away. I don't want to be your friend anymore. No, you offended me. I know how sometimes we have girl drama or girls dramas, but that did not happen. Tayo noticed, of course, and she started to think to herself, why exactly is Jasmine being cold? Why is she withdrawing? But guess what? Tayo, she couldn't figure this thing out. And Jasmine wasn't responding. They were not going to classes together. They were not cooking together anymore. Jasmine wasn't initiating any outings. Tayo also was already feeling like, okay, when she initiated outings, Jasmine wasn't responding as much as she used to, with that kind of enthusiasm and, girls' night out, trying to even see boys. That was not in the picture at this point. Guess what? Tayo started to feel like, since she doesn't want to be my friend anymore, let me start returning all her things. She returned her jewelry, she returned even ordinary pot that she had collected from her or she borrowed from her, like, say 1 week ago at the time, or maybe say 2 weeks, she returned it. There was that intense and cold feeling that she felt like, she doesn't want to be friends with me anymore. I beg, I don't want any ties with her. She returned her hair, like I think she borrowed the wig from her at the point that she returned the wig, she returned in her jewelry. She even started to demand for her own things back. That was how intense this thing was actually getting to. And at the time, Jasmine was just quiet. Jasmine wasn't saying anything at this point. Of course, when Tayo asks for, please, can I get my wig back? Jasmine too returned the wig now, Abby. There was no fight. This thing was getting so dramatic that it started to show, or I would say it started to show itself in rumors that were going on in town, like in their school. Some people started to whisper, Jasmine this, Tayo that, It started to feel like as if some certain secrets that were between these girls started to come out. At this point, like, Jasmine was like, oh my God. When she started to hear that, okay, Tayo was saying a few things about her, she felt like, okay, I think it's time for me to actually have a conversation with Tayo. Tayo, Alpha, what's going on? And they had this conversation and she was like, you were not talking to me. You're not saying anything. I felt you didn't want to be friends anymore. So I felt like I will return all your things to you, so that I can just be going our separate ways. I don't want any drama. And Tayo broke down at this point and she was like, I've been going through a lot. I lost my uncle. And Tayo froze. She was like, what? Oh my God. And at this point, Jasmine was already crying. She was like, I'm sorry, I didn't know. And she's like, yeah, my uncle died and it was really, really close to me. He took care of me like my parents. I stayed out of home for a while and I was with my uncle until I came into uni. And it was a really, really huge part of my life. Uncle this. And she was like, yes, Uncle Femi, I remember him. I'm so sorry. I didn't know that happened. I thought you didn't want to be friends with me anymore. I thought I did something wrong and I tried to ask you, but you're not responding. And that was a huge moment for them in that friendship because they assumed and it went a little bit south. Now, emotional maturity in this sense did not really play out so well on Tayo's end. Jasmine, on the other hand, we wouldn't say it came out like in a good form or early enough, but when Jasmine was able to tell her what exactly happened in that moment, she understood and she resonated with what was going on in Jasmine's life. And I think at that point in time, they made up, they became friends again. But at that point in time, do you know what would have happened if and only if Tayo asked her friend outrightly, Jasmine, what is going on? I noticed this and I noticed that. That would have been the emotional, mature thing to do. There would have been a different response. It wouldn't have resulted into, give me back my wig, give me back my jewelry, I want my this and my that back. It wouldn't have resulted into gossips. It would have saved so much more because Tayo would have been emotionally mature and a better friend for her friend at that point in time, asking her, guy, I've noticed this and that. Are you okay? I'm noticing this. I feel like you're withdrawing from me. I feel like you're being cold. That would have saved a whole lot in their friendship. I'm hoping that this hits something or hits well for somebody, because I've had a similar experience before. I know that some of us watching right now would have actually had such an experience too in the past, or even with a friend or with a neighbor or whatever it is. But I'm sure this actually goes a long way to shows what emotional maturity could be, what it looks like in the moment, because nobody was clapping for their friendship at that point in time, but somebody at some point had to speak up to ask the question, is everything okay? You're not responding to me as you would normally. Okay, so I want to go to the point of it's not always about you. Do you know that emotional maturity a huge part of emotional maturity is learning to sit with other people's feelings without turning the spotlight on yourself. Emotional maturity is hearing someone's truth, even when it stings a little, And it's not making your own what, it's not making that issue your own what or your own ego. Emotional maturity is clapping when somebody wins. It's like when you're clapping when somebody wins, even when your own life feels quiet. It is listening to understand and not listening to some of us, when there's an issue, when there's a problem, when there's an argument, what we are listening to is our own point and how we want to drive the point, how it hurt, what they said wrong. We're looking for the loophole in their response so that we can I don't know. It's a whole lot. It's so. Anyways, I have one very dramatic example. Nigerian social media. See, don't post, don't comment, because sometimes some people's comments have comments. You comment something, and some people on that comments in somebody else's post and somebody else's comment section, some people have they've inherited enemies. You are guys, it's not everything you have to respond to. It's not everything that is about you. In fact, somebody else's marriage on social media does not mean that it's your family member's marriage. All ye online in-laws, can you please people rest? It's time for you to rest. You don't have to talk, do you know? Even if in that picture they look like, oh, the wife head is like this. Oh, maybe they don't have money to eat today. They are forming fake life. Guys, how far? Guys, you don't need to respond. You don't have to be a keypad warrior. You don't need to go and cause problem and off your phone. They'll come and carry you. You know that nowadays, you talk rubbish, they will save you lawsuits. You pay money. Anyways, let's continue. So let's move on to knowing when to stay or when to walk away. Emotionally mature people also know when to stay. They know when to speak up and even when to leave. Emotional people don't beg. They don't beg to be understood by people who are determined to misunderstanding them. There's some people that there's nothing you can explain. There's nothing you can say. They will misunderstand you. And sometimes, it's actually all right. Looking at it in the long run, in the long picture, it's even okay that they misunderstand you now. Allow it to just play out the way it wants to and have some peace of your own. You understand? Emotionally mature people don't force closure. Some of us, closure. I know it's something that we need, but sometimes that you don't need to force it. You don't need to, drag somebody to your spirit. No, you must respond. No, you must hang out with me. You must. That's emotional immaturity. Emotional maturity sometimes is even letting when you don't need to get an apology. And I know me myself, I'm guilty to that apology thing. If you don't say sorry to me, I'll feel like you don't care. I'll feel like you don't want to solve the issue. I know. We are learning. That's why we are here. Sure, we are learning on this space to be more emotionally aware, to be, our social and mental wellness. That's why we're here. And we are learning together. Sure, we agree. Yes. What does emotional maturity actually look like? We've actually checked it out, like what it looks like, what it doesn't look like in some circumstances. Emotional maturity is actually thoughtful. Emotional maturity is quiet. It's how you handle some certain things. It's how you handle rejection when you're chosen, when you're not chosen, when you're even an option. Emotional maturity is how you respond to someone when they say no. Emotional maturity is how you regulate yourself when you're even triggered. It's how you show up with grace when people see it or not. Some of us, we don't know how to react. We don't know how to continue when there's no one clapping. We want the spotlight. We want people to see us. We want them to know that we're actually doing something. Emotional maturity is, would you continue to when there's no views? Will you continue to when nobody's giving you the accolades that you think you deserve? Emotional maturity is the truth that we are learning. It's how we are actually maturing into it. I'm learning, you're learning. Emotional maturity also shows itself when you choose reflection over reaction. It is also when you choose peace over performance, and that's when you know you're actually growing. And that's why we're here, remember. So let me know in the comments, if the story that we shared, like if it hit home for you, if any of the points that we shared, like how did it resonate with you? Which one are you working on in your life right now? Or like what emotional maturity stage are you in? Like how is it playing out for you? Let's talk about it in the comments, or you can always connect with me on other social media platforms, right? My handles are like in the description. And if you're serious about becoming a better human, socially, mentally, and even emotionally, you are in the right place. Please subscribe, share with somebody that you know would need this video, and I'll see you in my next video. Have a good one. Bye.